Alex Harrison from the Free Gaza movement. So the violence used against us was brutal and unnecessary. It was so brutal and unnecessary, it was like a cartoon. But what I found more shocking was the way the soldiers treated us afterwards. After the military operation against us was over, the hatred and the contempt and the humiliation they treated us with was unrelenting. At every possible opportunity they found ways to humiliate us. They laughed at us, they jeered at us, they hissed at us, they strip searched us all again and again when it was unnecessary. We were subject to humiliating personal searches. People were told to urinate on themselves because we were denied access to the toilets. The way they treated some of the Turkish passengers was unbelievable. There was a Turkish woman in prison who'd been widowed on the boat. She was with her husband when he was killed. He was shot in the head, and she'd stayed with him on the boat with his body. But then she was taken away and taken into prison with the ordinary prisoners. After 36 hours in the prison, they brought her a photo that they'd just taken of him to say, "Identify this," and she came back and said, after being dead 36 hours, having been shot in the face, he was so bloated and distorted she could only recognise his mouth. And then she was sent back to the cells like nothing had happened. They had no compassion whatsoever. And this went on right until the moment they forced us onto the planes. Even as they were forcing people onto the planes, or even as people were going voluntarily to the planes, soldiers were taking the opportunity to beat people. We saw 4 men being beaten severely, and they even hit the women. They waded into the place where I was being penned and beat 2 of the women around the head. The most inhumane thing I saw was how they treated the Turkish injured men. This by now was Wednesday evening, and most people were still wearing what they'd worn on Sunday morning. We were attacked in the early hours of Monday. And the injured hadn't even been given clean clothes, and some of them were walking with a sleeve or a leg cut off their clothes because that had been done to treat their injuries, and the Israelis hadn't even given them fresh clothes to change into, and their clothes were covered in 3-day-old blood and fresh blood. One man was walking with a bag of blood in his hand. He was still getting a blood transfusion, and they didn't even give him a wheelchair to get to the aeroplane. They made him walk all the way carrying a bag of blood in his hand. And then I saw maybe 12 or 14 men with bandages on their feet hopping across the terminal. And I wanted to ask why, and I couldn't, because if we spoke to them, the Israeli soldiers beat the men for speaking to us. But afterwards, when I got to the plane, I found out that when Mama had been attacked and when they were shooting with live fire, they were shooting from above. So the men had been hit. The men who hadn't been hit in the head and killed had been hit in the tops of their feet. And these men had been shot. They hadn't even been given a change of clothes. And then on the way to the aeroplane, and they were going home voluntarily, the Israelis didn't even give them a wheelchair or a pair of crutches to help them. And worse than that, if anybody gave them an arm to say, to help them to the plane, the Israelis dragged that person away, and they made every injured man hop to the plane while all the soldiers watched and jeered and laughed at them. And I think that's purely abusive. They were just full of hatred, and I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that, and the memory of that's stronger than the memory of the violence.
How does it relate to the Holocaust of the Jews in Germany? I mean, people like this who have this experience, they shouldn't be dealing with Gazan people like that, or those people in the Free Gaza fleet.
Nobody should be treated like that. No. Nobody should be treated that. I don't have any experience of the Holocaust. I wasn't there, but I have lived in the West Bank and I have seen Israeli violence, and you don't need to know anything about the Holocaust to know that what the Israelis are doing now is wrong. It's wrong. It's inhumane, and I'm still shocked by the way we were treated. Beyond the violence, the degree of hatred and the intimacy of it, because there were so many soldiers up in our faces, showing no humanity whatsoever, just showing hatred.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.